Your wife's hand is shaking in yours. You feel it, that tremor of absolute terror. Around you, 50 other men sit frozen at their dinner tables, wine cups halfway to their lips. Nobody's drinking, nobody's breathing. Because he's walking between the tables again, choosing. His eyes scan faces like a butcher selecting meat. And then he stops, right behind your wife. You feel his hand on her shoulder. You hear him say, "This one." And you know if you move, if you speak, if you even look up, your children will be dead by morning. So you do nothing. You sit there. You let him take her hand. You watch them disappear through that doorway. And then you wait. 20 minutes that feel like 20 years. When he finally brings her back, he doesn't just return her to your side. He sits down at your table. He pours himself wine. And then in front of everyone you know, everyone you'll have to face tomorrow, he begins to describe in graphic, clinical detail exactly what just happened in that room. Your colleagues are studying their plates. Your wife is staring at nothing. And you have to smile, you have to thank him, because this is Rome 39 AD. And the man destroying your life, your marriage, your sanity isn't just powerful, he is the law. His name is Caligula. And this dinner party, this is just Tuesday. What I'm about to show you isn't the rambling madness of a deranged emperor. It's something far more terrifying. It's a machine. A system of psychological warfare so sophisticated that 2,000 years later, every dictator who studied history has borrowed from his blueprint. Because Caligula didn't just kill people, he broke them, systematically, scientifically. And he learned how to do it by watching his entire family get tortured to death when he was just a child. If you think the documented truth of history's darkest minds needs to be remembered, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what you're about to hear gets worse, much worse. And the most disturbing part, the system he built outlived him by centuries. Now let me take you back to where this machine was manufactured. Because monsters aren't born, they're created. And Caligula's creation started with a 7-year-old boy in a Roman military camp. Picture this scene. The year is 14 AD. A small child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, is racing through rows of military tents. He's dressed in a perfect miniature version of a Roman legionnaire's uniform. Tiny breastplate, miniature helmet, and those distinctive red leather boots, the Caligula, that give him his nickname. Little Boots, Caligula. The soldiers absolutely adore this kid. These are men who have crucified rebels, burned villages, seen unspeakable violence. But when this little boy runs past, they smile. They salute. They lift him onto their shoulders. He's the son of Germanicus, Rome's greatest general since Julius Caesar himself. And these battle-hardened warriors believe this child brings them luck in battle. Everywhere his father marches, little Caligula follows, and the legions love him for it. This boy is growing up believing he's invincible, protected, surrounded by the most powerful army on earth. His entire reality is constructed around absolute security, unconditional love. He has no framework for understanding that any of this could be taken away. He's living in a bubble of pure adoration, and he has no idea that in exactly 1 year, that bubble is going to explode. That everything he knows, everyone he loves, will be systematically destroyed, and he'll be forced to watch every single moment of it. The year is 19 AD. Caligula is 8 years old when his father dies. The official explanation: sudden illness. The whispered truth: poison, ordered by someone close to Emperor Tiberius. Maybe Tiberius himself. We'll never know for certain. But what happens next removes all doubt that this was political murder. Within months, the machine starts consuming his family. His mother, Agrippina, a woman with imperial blood and fierce intelligence, is arrested. The charges, treason, the evidence, whatever the emperor says it is. She's dragged from their home while her children watch. Then comes his eldest brother, Nero Caesar, not the famous emperor, just a teenager whose last name has become a death sentence. He's thrown into prison. And here's where the cruelty becomes deliberate. They don't execute him quickly. They starve him, slowly, methodically, until madness sets in and he tries to eat the stuffing from his own mattress before finally dying. His second brother, Drusus, is exiled to a remote island prison. The guards have one job: break him completely. They succeed. According to Tacitus, Drusus eventually smashes his own skull against stone walls, choosing obliteration over one more day of existence. Their mother is also exiled, also starved, her death drawn out over years. The family of Germanicus, Rome's beloved hero, is being erased, publicly, slowly, as a message, and through it all one survives, the youngest son, the one nobody considers dangerous. Little Caligula, now a teenager, watching, learning, absorbing a lesson he'll never forget. Power isn't about love or loyalty or justice, it's about fear. It's about making people watch while you destroy what they care about. It's about breaking the human spirit so thoroughly that resistance becomes impossible. Then comes the summons that will complete his education. Emperor Tiberius wants to see him. On Capri, the beautiful island that Tiberius has transformed into his private laboratory of cruelty. Capri should be paradise. Stunning cliffs, azure water, mild Mediterranean climate. But Tiberius has turned it into something else. Ancient historians, Suetonius, Tacitus, men writing within living memory of these events, they describe Capri as Tiberius's experiment chamber, a place where an emperor, completely freed from social constraints, explores the absolute limits of power. What does a man do when nothing is forbidden? When every desire, no matter how twisted, can be fulfilled with a single command? Tiberius is answering that question. And into this nightmare walks teenage Caligula. He understands with perfect clarity that he's entering the place where his family was murdered. Every advisor he sees might have whispered the accusations. Every servant might have prepared the poison. The old man welcoming him with false warmth ordered his brothers tortured to death. But watch what happens. Watch carefully. Because this is where we see the first glimpse of Caligula's terrible genius. He doesn't just survive Capri, he excels. He becomes exactly what Tiberius wants: charming, obedient, entertaining, apparently empty of ambition or resentment. He never mentions his dead family, never shows anger, never displays grief. He's the perfect companion, but he's doing something else. He's studying, not from scrolls or teachers, from watching a master predator operate. How do you maintain absolute control? What techniques shatter resistance? How do you make people so afraid that they police themselves? For 6 years, Caligula is the perfect student, learning lessons no human being should ever master. And Tiberius, feeling secure, feeling clever, never realizes he's training his own replacement. March 16th, 37 AD. Tiberius dies in his bed, or maybe he doesn't. Some sources say natural causes. Others whisper that Caligula smothered him with a pillow. Either way, the 19-year-old survivor is now the most powerful person on the planet. Rome explodes in celebration. Citizens flood the streets, offering sacrifices of thanksgiving. They're getting the son of beloved Germanicus, the little boy the legions adored. Finally, a good emperor after decades of Tiberius's paranoid cruelty. They have no idea. They're celebrating the coronation of someone who spent 6 years learning advanced techniques of psychological torture from one of history's cruelest men. The first 7 months seem to confirm their hopes. Caligula is generous, accessible, hosting magnificent games, distributing money to citizens. He honors his murdered family, recalls political exiles, promises to restore dignity to the Senate. Rome hasn't been this optimistic in decades. Then Caligula falls ill. High fever, delirium, weeks hovering near death. The entire empire holds its breath, praying for their beloved young emperor's recovery. He recovers. But when those eyes open again, something has changed. The mask he's worn for 6 years, first on Capri, then in Rome, that mask of charming normalcy, it's gone. And Rome is about to discover what was hiding underneath. What emerges isn't chaos. That's the crucial thing to understand. Caligula doesn't lose his mind and descend into random violence. What happens is far worse. He gains perfect clarity and ascends into systematic psychological destruction. He has a plan, a blueprint learned from Tiberius but refined into something more surgical, more sophisticated. 5 distinct attack vectors, each designed to destroy a different foundation of human dignity. Let me show you how the machine operates. First component, weaponizing grief. When Caligula's sister Drusilla dies, possibly from fever, something inside him either shatters or reveals what was always broken. Ancient sources claim their relationship crossed into incestuous territory. Whether that's literal truth or vicious rumor, what matters is Rome believes it. And Caligula encourages that belief. After her death, he doesn't just mourn privately. He mandates public mourning. Drusilla is declared a goddess by senatorial decree, not metaphorically. There are now temples where Roman citizens must worship his dead sister. But here's where the innovation becomes diabolic. He declares a mandatory mourning period with specific legal requirements. During this time, laughter becomes a crime, bathing becomes a crime, having dinner with your family becomes a crime. These aren't suggestions. These are laws backed by execution. Imagine living in that reality. Your child tells a joke at breakfast. Do you laugh? Do you punish them for being a child? Every moment of joy becomes a potential death sentence. Every natural comfort that makes life bearable is suddenly illegal. He's forcing an entire empire to experience his grief, making his internal anguish everyone's external reality. And he's discovering something intoxicating. He can legislate emotion itself. If he can control grief, what else can he control? Second component, destroying legacy. According to Suetonius and Cassius Dio, Caligula establishes a brothel inside the imperial palace. But this isn't a typical establishment. It's allegedly staffed by the sons and daughters of Rome's senatorial families. The aristocracy, people whose ancestors conquered provinces, whose names appear in history books stretching back centuries. He has heralds announce prices in the Roman Forum, different rates based on family status, special pricing for virgins from specific noble houses. And here's the detail that reveals the psychological precision. He keeps official ledgers. Government records documenting names, dates, transactions. The bureaucratic accounting of aristocratic degradation. Whether this literally happened or represents an exaggerated version of smaller humiliations, what matters is that Romans found it completely believable. Why? Because they understood the target. In Roman culture, family honor across generations mattered more than individual life. Many would choose death over dishonor. Caligula found something worse. Dishonor you cannot escape through suicide, permanently recorded in imperial archives. Your family name, carefully preserved for centuries, now appears in a prostitution ledger. And you cannot object because objecting means execution, which means your family line ends entirely. He's not just attacking individuals. He's attacking the concept of legacy itself. Third component, staged humiliation with witnesses. Now we arrive at the imperial banquets, and this is where the machine's sophistication becomes truly apparent. You're a Roman senator. You receive an invitation to dine with the emperor, which isn't optional. You arrive with your wife. The hall contains perhaps 50 other senatorial couples. Everyone is dressed formally. Everyone is terrified but hiding it. Caligula is holding court, telling stories, being charming. Then without warning he stands. The room falls silent instantly. Every conversation dies mid-sentence. He begins walking slowly between tables, examining the women. His gaze is clinical, evaluative. He's inspecting them like livestock. He stops at your table, studies your wife openly while you sit frozen. Every instinct screams at you to do something while your survival instinct screams louder to stay still. He extends his hand. She has no choice but to take it. They walk toward a private chamber. You watch the door close. The silence in that dining hall is suffocating. Nobody speaks. Nobody looks at anyone. Everyone is calculating whether they're next, feeling guilty for being grateful it's not them. 20 minutes crawl by. 30. Finally, the door opens. He brings her back, seats her beside you. She won't meet your eyes. And then instead of leaving, he sits down at your table, pours himself wine, and begins describing in explicit detail what just occurred. He's rating her performance, comparing her to other senators' wives, making jokes you have to laugh at. Everyone nearby can hear. Everyone knows. Tomorrow you'll see these same people. You'll conduct business together, maintain civilized relationships, and everyone will remember. Everyone will know. He's not just violating your wife. He's destroying every pillar of Roman masculine identity, your ability to protect your household, your authority, your dignity. And he's making everyone complicit through witnessing. The social fabric itself becomes his weapon. Fourth component, corrupting love. This is where Caligula's system reaches its darkest sophistication. He begins executing people arbitrarily, not for crimes, because he's bored, because someone looked at him wrong, because he wants to see what happens. And he develops a protocol. If he's executing someone's son, the father must watch. Mandatory attendance. Front row. But here's the mechanism that transcends simple cruelty. Suetonius records that after forcing a father to witness his son's execution, Caligula immediately had the man brought to the palace for dinner. That same night, while the body's still warm, the father sat at the imperial table, and Caligula just watched him, studied his face like a scientist observing an experiment, checking for tears, for grief, for any crack in the composure. Because if the father showed emotion, that meant Caligula hadn't broken him completely. That meant there was still something human left to destroy. So the father sat there, forcing down food that turned to ash in his mouth, making conversation through a throat closed with anguish, while his child's murderer analyzed his facial expressions for entertainment. Do you see the mechanism? He's not just taking your children, he's taking your right to grieve them. He's making love itself dangerous. The deeper your bonds, the more weapons he has against you. He's teaching Rome that attachment is weakness, that caring is suicidal. And then the machine finds its fatal flaw. Because while Caligula is busy systematically breaking senators and aristocrats, people trained in political survival who understand humiliation as part of the power game, he makes one crucial miscalculation. He aims his casual, everyday cruelty at the wrong type of person. A soldier, Cassius Chaerea, senior officer in the Praetorian Guard. These are the elite warriors who stand next to the emperor every single day. Armed, trained, lethal. Chaerea has one physical characteristic that Caligula finds endlessly amusing. A high-pitched voice that doesn't match his warrior frame, his decorated service, his reputation for courage. And Caligula exploits it relentlessly. Daily mockery, constant jokes. But here's the specific detail that shows how routine his cruelty has become. There's a military protocol where guards request the daily password from the emperor. When it's Chaerea's turn, Caligula assigns him deliberately feminine or obscene passwords. Venus, Priapus, words that make other guards smirk. Day after day, this decorated soldier has to repeat sexual terms in his high voice while his peers try not to laugh. For Caligula, it's throwaway entertainment, barely memorable. For Chaerea, it's poison, accumulating daily. See the calculation error. Senators want to survive. They have children to protect, legacies to preserve. They can rationalize enduring anything. But Chaerea is a soldier trained for violence who stands next to the emperor every day with a sword on his hip. And Caligula just taught him that survival isn't worth the cost. The emperor forgot the most basic rule: never corner something capable of killing you. January 24th, 41 AD. Caligula is attending theatrical games, enjoying the performances. Around midday, he decides to leave through an underground passage connecting the theater to his palace. It's a narrow corridor, stone walls on both sides, dim lighting, claustrophobic. The conspirators are waiting. Chaerea steps forward as Caligula approaches. This seems normal. Guards always check in. Routine. Chaerea asks for the day's password. Caligula, completely secure in his invincibility, gives one more mocking response. It's the last sound he ever makes. Chaerea screams and drives his blade upward under the emperor's ribs. Caligula staggers, tries to run, but the corridor is too narrow. Conspirators at both ends. They swarm him. 30 stab wounds. 30 times steel penetrates flesh. They don't stop until nothing remains that could threaten them. 4 years of accumulated terror released in 60 seconds of frenzied violence. The machine is broken. The monster is dead. But the killing doesn't stop. They find Caesonia, Caligula's wife. She's begging, trying to reason with men whose hands are still bloody. They murder her. Then they find the nursery. Julia Drusilla, Caligula's daughter, may be 2 years old. A soldier picks her up. While she cries for her mother, he swings her by the legs, smashing her head against marble. They have to eliminate any heir, anyone who could seek vengeance, so they murder a toddler. This is what happens when the machine breaks. It doesn't simply stop. It devours everything connected to it. For several hours, it seems like something might change. The Senate convenes in emergency session, debating, actually discussing ideas for the first time in years. Some want to restore the Republic entirely. Real conversation is happening. Then the Praetorian Guard makes a decision. While senators debate philosophy, soldiers are looting the palace. One hears movement behind a curtain and pulls it back. There's a man hiding there, trembling, middle-aged, with a stutter and a limp. Claudius, Caligula's uncle. Everyone had dismissed him as harmless, probably brain-damaged. The guard looks at him and sees the next emperor. The Praetorians carry Claudius to their camp and proclaim him emperor. While the Senate debates, the military has already decided. The system survived. Here's what haunts every historian. Caligula ruled for less than 4 years. In Roman history, that's nothing. Yet 2,000 years later, we're still talking about him. Why? Because he proved that every institution of a civilized state can be transformed into an instrument of systematic psychological destruction. He didn't work outside the system. He made the system his weapon. Those ledgers, that's bureaucracy. The mandatory mourning, that's law enforcement. The dinner parties, that's imperial hospitality. Every atrocity was legal because he was the law. And when he died, the system didn't die. It just needed new management. Look what came after. Nero, Domitian, Commodus, Elagabalus. The blueprint remained, because Caligula revealed a truth Rome could never unlearn. When one person controls everything with no checks, no balances, there's no mechanism to stop them except death. And even then, you're just waiting for the next operator. Suetonius wrote Caligula was the best of servants and the worst of masters. He learned tyranny by perfectly performing loyalty. That's the warning. The greatest dangers don't announce themselves. They learn. They adapt. They wear masks until they have enough power to remove them. One final detail. After Claudius became emperor, he ordered most of Caligula's records destroyed, burned. The histories we have were written decades later from memories and fragments, which means everything I just described, that's only what survived the purge. Imagine what we lost. Imagine what was so disturbing that even Rome decided it needed erasing. Caligula ruled less than 4 years. In that time, he showed every future tyrant how to break human beings systematically, psychologically, completely. And the blueprint never disappeared. It's still out there, waiting for the right operator, which leaves one question I can't answer. Are we watching for the warning signs? Because the machine can be rebuilt. It just needs someone willing to use it.